Now let's turn to Howard W. Stone Jr. The question everybody's been asking me is, what does the W stand for?
I can't believe you asked me that question, Doug. I never, ever tell people my middle name.
Well, I'm just asking it. It's on everybody's mind, Howard. I got 15 people email me before this saying, what's the W stand for? They're dying to know.
They'll have to continue to wonder.
Continue to die, huh?
Okay, let's leave it like that.
Not even for an old LGW friend, you won't tell me?
Doug, let's let that rest. I hate my middle name, and I want everybody to guess it.
So Howard, how did you get involved with Leadership Greater Washington? You have a great story about how you hated us and then you saw the light. So
Well,
talk to us, Howard.
okay, this was very interesting, Doug, and I had certainly heard about the organization, and I, after talking to a couple of people, I said, well, I'm going to apply for that organization. I did apply, and most people don't know the story, Doug, because they say I'm so Leadership Washington, so Leadership Greater Washington. But I did apply in 1995, and I did not get accepted. And, I got the letter and I looked at it and I said, well, don't they know who I am? Don't they know what I will bring to that organization? And through the counseling and guidance of my two close friends, and everybody knows that person is Artist Hampshire Cowan, and the late Susan, I forgot her name. Susan, oh my God, I can't believe I'm having a senior moment. She had a public relations firm.
Ran public relations company.
Yeah. But both of them counseled me to apply again. And in the meantime, I was working for the Airports Authority at the time, and I was called to sit on a task force that you all had because we were welcoming people into the city. And my first thought, well, why should I sit on a committee for them? But I did work on the committee, and I applied again. And this time I got accepted.
That's Susan Hager, by the way.
Yeah, it was Susan Hager, and old age is a lot, because I mean, I love Susan Hager dearly, and she was one of those ones who said, "You're going to apply, aren't you? You're going to apply," and I did, and certainly through artists' persistence and wise counsel, I did apply again, and guess what? I got accepted. And you all didn't know what a crazy person you all were letting into the organization.
So Lefty Driesell had a great line about getting old, Howard. He said, when you get old, there's two bad things that happen to you. One is you forget names, and the other is you go to the bathroom all the time.
Yeah, how about that? Well, I tell everybody my brain power is certainly diminished, because the year that I was chair of this august organization, I studied the directory, and I knew everybody's year affiliation, and I certainly knew the names. So I would go home and take 50 and commit those to memory, and 50 and 50, because then I think we had maybe 1,200 people was the extent of the organization, and that was back in the year 2000, the year I was chair.
So our chair, Mahan Tavakoli, says that your middle name, the W stands for wonderful.
Oh,
and Valerie Ashley says it's wonderful and wise. So,
well,
I got people kissing up to you right and left here.
Well, I love Mahan Tavakoli. I mean, he's my friend, been my friend, and will always be my friend. In fact, I did my first podcast with him a couple of months ago.
We need to be careful, Howard, because Dorothy Bailey is on this call, so we got to be
Oh
careful
my
what we
God.
say and what we do. So
Dorothy Bailey, you know, I can't say enough about my sister, Dorothy Bailey. She is an inspiration to all of us, but especially an inspiration to me. And believe me, Doug, she's one of the ones that keeps me grounded and keeps me moving forward.
she's a great lady.
She
I
is.
can see she would keep you grounded. I can see that easily.
I mean, she cuts through it all and says, "Okay, Howard, this is what it is, and we're gonna do this, okay?" And we had a wonderful lunch together about a week ago.
I was on a wonderful trip to Israel with her about 25 years ago, so we had a great time. So she's a great lady. So Howard, you were when you joined the class, what class were you accepted into?
I was in the class of 1996.
96. And what's your class name?
We were the perfect 10
Perfect.
because
10.
we were the 10th year of Leadership Greater Washington.
But weren't you a little skeptical when you started?
Oh, I tell everybody the story because I was fortunate enough to do a lot of class orientations. And Doug, it was interesting. You know, we say we're not judgmental, but most of us are judgmental. And I walked into the room, and after about 10 minutes, I had sized up the room. And I came back to my seat and said, "Howard, what have you done? What have you gotten yourself into?" I said, "These people all think they're in charge." And that can't be true because you're the one that's always in charge. So I sucked it up. I don't want to say drank the Kool-Aid, but sucked it up. I had an interesting year, Doug. That's all I can say. Because I was a little rambunctious. You know, things like we were on our environmental day at Great Falls. And after about 15, 20 minutes of looking at the rocks in the water, I said, "Okay, we got to get out of here." And I persuaded my classmates to go to the Old Anglers Inn. And we sat on the patio of the Old Anglers Inn. They had beers, they had other refreshments. It was wonderful. But that wasn't what we were supposed to be doing that day. So when I got back to the city, I got a call from, I've already mentioned her name, who asked me to see her in her office at Howard University. And I got read the Riot Act, why I wasn't sent to Leadership Washington to be a disruptive person. And like I said, I fell in line, ended up on the board, and 4 years after that, I became chair of this august organization. And I say that all the time because, I mean, this is such a wonderful organization and one that I truly dearly love. And you know, it's the people in the organization that make it. And I have met some of the most wonderful people. And I tried to get others to try to share my experience every year when we try to recruit people. And somebody asked me, how many people have I recruited for Leadership Washington? I've never really kept account, but it's a lot.
I think you're second to Lyle's Carr in terms of number of people recruited to the organization. You have done a lot.
I mean, it's you know, I want good people, and you know, I want the good people not to just join the organization, but help build the organization, because and we have come so far, because when I was 1996, and the year I was chair, we still had strong ties to the Board of Trade. In fact, we were still indebted to the Board of Trade, and I can boastfully say that was my year that I was determined to pay off that debt, and we held a lot of events, and we did pay off our debt to the Board of Trade. So, I mean, I can see how we've come from that point to where we are now. I mean, with our reserves and over close to 2,000 people. I mean, and the fact that this organization is making such a difference in the lives of people in the greater Washington area. And Doug, you know, I tend to be what I say is somebody who tries to reach out of the borders of Prince George's County, and everybody knows my great love for my county. And so Dana Stebbins, I have the moniker I'm called Mr. Prince George's, but it's I love my county, but I also love the greater Washington area because we all have to be together if we're going to accomplish anything.
So what year were you chair?
I was chair in the year 2000, Doug.
Okay. Well, thank you for taking care of our debt to the Board of Trade.
Well,
We're doing much better now. I do want to remind you, though, that since you led that mini revolt to go to Old Angler's Inn on your environmental day, we now take people on a boat ride of the Anacostia, so they can't leave. They're stuck on the boat for the whole thing.
Okay.
So that's we call that the Howard Stone boat ride.
Okay, great. You know, everybody knows that I have attention deficit disorder, so after 15 minutes of looking at those rocks, I'm going, there's got to be more than this than this. But that was in.
So talk about when you said the late, I thought you were going to say the late great Wayne Curry. Talk about Wayne Curry. When you joined LGW, you were the chief administrative officer for Prince George's County.
Yes.
You worked for one of the great leaders in the history of the region, Wayne Curry. What was that like? And he was in our first class.
Yes.
So LGW was near and dear to his heart as well.
In fact, Doug, we're approaching the anniversary of his death. July 2nd will be, I think, the 7th anniversary of his death. And I can say working with Wayne Curry was an experience like none other. I mean, you knew Doug, Wayne's spirit. You knew that he was an irascible person. He was an extremely bright person. He was complex, but there was nobody else in the region at that time who was as bold as Wayne Curry was. I think when you sent the blurb out about this frontline conversation, when we were elected to the office, we were faced with a terrible financial situation, and we worked together, and we had other people like my good friend Linda Wilson, who was a member of the class in 1997. I still remember some of this stuff in terms of class years, but we were able to deal with the issues that we had. I mean, $135 million deficit is no joke. And Wall Street was banging on our doors saying, are you all paying attention to this debt? And it was a structure that had been left us by the previous occupant of the office. And believe me, I want to sum up Wayne in like this. When we met, the first meeting we had with the Wall Street rating analysts, we laid out a plan of sort of right-sizing government, because I'll never forget, it took 26 pieces of legislation for us to do everything that we did. And I went down to the council the day that those bills were supposed to be enacted, and I sat in the front row. And luckily, we got all 26 pieces of legislation enacted through the help of people like Dorothy Bailey, who was at one time chair of the council. But I say all this to say, when we got through this tremendous deficit, the Washington Post did a weekend, when they used to do this weekend magazine, I think they still do it. And on the picture, on the front of one of the covers, it was a picture of Wayne. And the title was, "He's Not Afraid." And he wasn't afraid to make some of the bold moves that we had to make, and to keep the county sound and afloat. And I mean, I can honestly say when Wayne left office, he left the office with $142 million surplus. So that was a transformation in itself of government. And that shows Wayne's tenacity. Now he was, and Doug, you know him. I mean, he was irascible. I mean, and some of the things and the way Wayne put things. I have not met anybody else like him at all. And
his oratorical skills were incredible. Absolutely incredible. I'd love to watch him speak.
But he could do that, but he could also get down with the comments.
Well, that's what he could
you know what I'm saying, Doug.
He could go any way you wanted. He was unbelievable. And I loved hearing him speak and saying, when will I ever be able to give a speech like that? Never, never.
Well, I mean, he like I said, was one of a kind, and I'll never forget when he left office. The Chamber of Commerce had asked him to speak, and he had been out of office about 2 months. And I'm not saying anything about his predecessor, but when Wayne got to the mic to speak, he said, "Now, don't you remember when you had a county executive and used to know how to speak?"
Oh,
that was just Wayne. That was just Wayne. A lot of people thought he was arrogant, but I never thought he was arrogant. He never had an arrogant bone in his body. I was more arrogant than Wayne was.
So what were some of the leadership skills you learned from Wayne? And you've met every sort of regional leader,
right?
Certainly on the government side. Are there other people that you learned from and admired?
Well, I mean, it's a sort of a combination of folks that I took wise counsel from, and certainly I tended to try to stay grounded, and I would listen to what the people in the community were talking about. Some of those barbershop chats. That's when I had hair. But and then there were people.
Wait. When was that? I don't ever remember you having.
I've
known you for 25 plus years now, Al.
And I had a little bit of hair then, Doug, and I used to go out, but now I go to get my beard trimmed.
There you go.
I don't have that much hair left. But it was sort of a panoply of people, different people from different walks of life, and then there were your true confidants that you knew that if you went to them with an issue, you could, they would give you some sound advice. And certainly I have mentioned 2 or 3 times Iris Hampshire Cowan. She was always a steadfast. And I developed certainly a great relationship with Carol Thompson Cole, that remains to this day through her efforts with VBP. But there were people that, and then when Wayne became county executive, we did a little tour of county executives in areas that were similar in size to Prince George's County and those that had Black county executives. And that was interesting because we went to St. Louis, we went to a lot of different places.
Come on, Harry. That was just an excuse for Wayne to do a little national tour.
Do a little what?
He wanted to travel the country.
No, that wasn't it. I'll never forget. We went to St. Louis, Doug, and we were ready to get off the plane, and suddenly these 2 guys came and took our luggage, and we didn't know who they were. And I said, "My God, are they mugging people after they get off, before they get off the airplane here, or what?" But those were the mayor, the county executive security. And that was to show us some St. Louis love. But
I'm glad you all did that tour. I think it was very helpful for
it was
not just Prince George's, but for the region. And what's striking to me is you mentioned St. Louis. St. Louis is now a city of about 350,000 people. Mm-hmm. It's a tiny city, and Prince George's is close to 1 million people.
Close to 1 million.
Bigger, but the counties don't get the same attention that the cities.
No, we don't.
Never have.
And that was why you had the County Executives Association on the NACO as well, that Wayne became chair of, and through Glenda Wilson's efforts, we maintained a presence there, and Wayne got to know so many wonderful people. I mean, it was Freeman Bosley in St. Louis. It was John Strozier in the Chicago area. It was the county executive, his name was Ron, I've forgotten his last name, Glenda would know who it is, from Seattle. So there were a number of what I thought were very bright.
Oh gosh, yeah, from King County. He came here? He
It
was
was Ron Sims. He was
Yes,
he
yes.
became one of the undersecretaries of HUD.
Yes, yeah, great guy.
Ron
Great guy.
Sims.
Yep.
Well, you're getting the juices flowing, and I'm just recalling some of these things now.
Well, let's. I want to get back to your comment on your, I think you call it your inner circle or whatever. How did you? Is this a sort of semi-formal thing? Is this something you just call people when you need something? I mean, what I've said is the mind trust that LGW has are just incredible resources. And when I was in Montgomery County as an elected official, I wish I had a mind trust, because you know, when you're at your level or Wayne's level, my level, people talk to you, but they work for you, so you wonder if they're just telling you what you want to hear, or they're looking for something. It's difficult to find people who tell you from their heart of hearts what's best for you. And that's what the mind trust does, and your inner circle does. And I've advised elected officials to form one of these, to get one of these kitchen cabinets, whatever, just to run ideas by, just to do a sanity check.
Well, you know,
keep you grounded.
When people that I have recruited for Leadership Washington talk about their mind trusts, I said, mind trust? What is a mind trust? Because we didn't have mind trust back in those days. And you know, one thing I always tell people, you don't discount people, be any station in their life or the people that you meet, because you know when I used to get a lot of my information from? When I was the CAO of Prince George's County, the guy who used to come in my office about 6 o'clock to pick up the trash and sort of clean the office. And this was the guy, his name was Joe, and I knew him as Joe. And I would say, Joe, just tell me what's happening. And I learned a wealth of information, the things that were really happening in the government. And Joe would say, well, I got to clean up. I said, forget that. I just want you to sit down here and have a conversation with me. And I mean, and I got that from him. So, I mean, so it doesn't, you don't have to be, as Wayne used to say, Wayne used to always get out of me, get funny, because he said that I dealt a lot with the she poo people. Those people who are supposed to be, you know, the be all and end alls, the elite. And it wasn't quite true.
Wasn't that Wayne's nickname for Montgomery County?
Well, you know, you were the Volvo in Wine County. I mean, that's what Montgomery County was. I mean, you all had the things that at that time that we aspired for in Prince George's and the things that we wanted. And I wanted to keep some of our residents at home spending their tax money, you know, in Prince George's County. So I can always proudly say, and people, and everybody who knows me well, when the Wegmans opened in Woodmore Town Center, I was in line like everybody else at 6:30. They let us in at 6:45, and I immediately went in the store and I said, who's the general manager? They pointed her out to me, and I ended up embracing her and giving her a kiss. And you know that there was a picture of that they hung above the store. And I'll never forget, Dana Stebbins called me one day. She said, is that you in that picture kissing Yana Douglas, who's the general manager? But you know, to me, we used to get a lot of people from Montgomery County that came over to Wegmans. And it was finally time for us to shine, because we were looking at Montgomery County as being the be all and end all, but you know, but Prince George's County was finally getting this due recognition, and you know, and that's why I still am a Wegmans devotee. And Dana Stebbins,
I got so much crap from people in Montgomery County for not having a Wegmans, that Prince George's got it first. So you all deserved it. We now have one in Germantown. We're getting a second one in Rockville. So
right.
So can I tell you a quick, typical Montgomery County story? So I am the county executive. I'm, you know, I go around, do a lot of different things, but I went to speak to a second grade class at Potomac Elementary School, and just having a lot of fun with the kids until one kid asked me what car I drove. What car did I own? And I said, well, I got a Ford Escort. And they all just started laughing at me. Like, what kind of car is that? Are you kidding me? Who the heck drives a Ford Escort? Only in Montgomery County, Eric, can they rag on you for not having a fancy enough car.
Well, I thought everybody in Montgomery County drove Volvos and they drank champagne or at least a good Chardonnay or something. It was the country club said.
Oh, my.
But, you know.
I remember shaking the hand of a delegate from Western Maryland, from Baltimore City. And he shook my hand and then he pulled it back and smelled his hand. And he goes, smells like money. I went, who are you kidding? Gee, I come from a family of 13 kids. You don't talk to me about that. Anyway, so leadership skills, Howard. You had to make some tough decisions as chief administrative officer. You now have a tough job of trying to steer the Prince George's County Council, now 11 members.
Yes.
So you got any leadership advice for us? Anything we should look at?
I guess, Doug, when it comes to leadership, and this is what I constantly try to instill in our leaders, a lot of them who have been through this program. Our county executive has been through this program, and most of our county council members have been through this program. And the one thing that I always rest my belief in is the concept of servant leadership. And I don't take that lightly, Doug, because I do believe, and it's mentioned in biblical scripture, before you lead, you have to serve. And while it's good that you're where you are, but you also need to know that you have to serve the people. And I am a mainstay. I believe wholly in the whole concept of servant leadership, and that has led me. Has never failed me. Has led me to the place that I want to be. Now, when it comes down to making decisions, Doug, sometimes I got to admit. And most of my very close friends say, okay, Howard, you're not a Democrat, you're an autocrat. Because, my thing, Doug, is when you make a decision, when you have to make a decision, you can be either right or you're wrong. And sometimes making no decision is a decision in and of itself. But, you got to make the decision and you cast the wind and try to make the best decision you can. But just one that's mindful of its effects, how it's going to affect the people, how it's going to affect the community, and how it is. I used to say, whether it's popular or not, sometimes you have to make decisions that are not popular.
It's interesting because I do think, again, right or wrong, the fact that you're making decisions moving forward is people like that. They like that in their leaders. And I remember a man in Silver Spring came up to me on the street and said, hey, I don't agree with everything you're doing, but I'm just glad you're doing things. I'm glad you're making decisions and getting things done. And I think that's what people want to see. They don't want to see a lot of analysis, paralysis by analysis, a lot of discussion. They want to see that, part of that, but they also want you to decide, move on, and tackle the next issue. And certainly in my county, that has been a fault of ours for decades, that we tend to analyze things to death, hoping for the perfect solution. And you can't do that. And I think you understand that, Howard.
Well, that was one thing that where Wayne and I, in many ways, were very much alike, but we were also a lot different. And having been in the government before Wayne, I had the sense that the government had to keep on moving and decisions had to be made. And Wayne was more cautious and he would delay. And finally, given the role of the CAO and the authority of the CAO, I did make a lot of decisions without letting him know that I made that decision. And it never really was of consequence because I would sit and say, this is why I made that decision. And he said, okay, that was good. Let's move on. And so it was an interesting and very fruitful relationship that we had, and I still cherish that, and I spend now a lot of time with his son Julian, who's 27 years old now.
Wow.
And he calls me, well, Uncle Howard, you're at a point where I need to take care of you. So I said, well, I didn't know I was at that point yet, but I welcome that, he and his sister.
So we've got a message in the chat from Dana Stebbins quoting you. One of your favorite sayings: "Democracy is often overrated. Leaders lead. Leaders lead." So is that your philosophy of life, Howard?
Well, it is very much, and those who like Dana, who know me well, and I'm probably going to be shot for saying this. I always deal with the issue of transparency. And, nobody has really explained what it means to me. But I mean, I think that to accomplish a lot in this era of transparency, some things have been lost. Now, I'm not going to say you can't do business without the people knowing, but if nobody remembers anything else, they'll probably remember this. I say, before this whole transparency thing, government was run well. It was run ethically. There were no issues, and the public did not know what the hell was going on. And now we have to dot every I, we have to cross every T, and and it's turned into a big cabal, and that's why you don't get some of your best and brightest people running for public service.
Oh, Howard, we're all better for the transparency that's happening in government. You know that. It's
well, Doug,
it's improved things quite a bit. As long as you don't let it dominate, as long as you make a decision.
Well, I mean, I do that well, Doug, and we had nothing to hide. It was a matter that the urgency of government itself. Sometimes you have to make a decision. You have to just wait and try to do the best thing you can.
So one of the challenges I had was convincing Montgomery County employees that saying that if only the public would get out of my way, I could do my job. Sort of defeats the purpose of what their job is. Mm-hmm. Their job is to serve the public, not to ignore them and push them out of the way. So that's a tendency that I think government falls into. It's a trap we fall into too much.
Well, transparency, I think, has added to the complexity of government in terms of processes and procedures. That goes without question. And and I do think taxpayers should know how money is being spent. But sometimes the process and procedures that you have to embody to be totally transparent, they're just massive. And so, Doug, I think we might, even though I respect you and we're good friends, we might disagree on this.
It won't be the first time, Howard.
It really won't, because of the issues that we've had. Because as I was saying to you earlier, Montgomery and Prince George's County are really closely aligned because, we have two massive bi-county agencies, one being WSSC, which is our water works, and then the great Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission.
I would say one of my great memories of working with Prince George, it's a fun story, is when you all named your administrative building after Wayne. It was after he passed.
Yes.
And it was a great celebration of Wayne's life. And I was honored to be asked to say a few words there. And I was I think I was the first sort of speaker in a long list of speakers. And Dorothy Bailey was the MC, and she was going to introduce people. And she sort of held up a bell saying, if you talk too long, you got 2 minutes, whatever, talk too long, I'll ring the bell. And she just went on and on and on and on about the bell and what she was going to do. And so finally, instead of her introducing, I just walked up, grabbed the bell, rang it for her to sit down. I love that. I love that.
Only
and
you
it was
could
a, it was a great day. It was a great day.
It was only you could get away with that.
I know. You had to be outside Prince George's.
Only you could get away with that in Prince George's County, Doug Duncan.
Let's get back to LGW, Howard. We've talked about government for some time, but what are some of your favorite memories of leadership here in Washington?
Oh my God! I mean, it's just as I said, the camaraderie that we had within. Fortunately, I had camaraderie with my class, but since I was, in the hierarchy, I got to know the people in other classes, and it's just been an amazing journey. And and this is sort of not a pleasant memory, but I was asked to speak at Susan Hager's memorial service, and it was a daunting task. But I got through it with the help of people like artists at Hampshire Callan, because I was able to tell the story. And I'll never forget, we had a celebration at the Kennedy Center, and one of the guests at the event came up to me afterwards, and she said, "Well, I am glad that you got into that organization. They would have missed a lot without you." So I mean,
we would have, Howard.
That was one of the things. But when I think of, and I can't begin to name names because I'll leave somebody out. But certainly, when I look at the people that have come through the ranks of Leadership Washington, from Prince George's County, the people that I've gotten to know in the District of Columbia, people like Marie Johns, the mayor, and other people who've been through the program. And certainly there's no one like Lyles Carr, who we're going to celebrate in October for this year's award. I mean, Lyles is been such a mainstay and somebody that I've gotten a lot of advice from, and somebody whom I greatly admire. And I just want to say one thing that Lyles did during, I guess, the beginning of this pandemic. As everybody knows about me, I love Cajun food, and I love to also cook. And Lyles conspired one day, and somebody was in my driveway, and I looked out, and I said, "Well, Lyles must have gotten terribly lost. He's in Prince George's County." And it was Lyles. Lyles has a Cajun restaurant that's right down the street from his house, and he had gone there and ordered me a Cajun meal, inclusive of my favorite Cajun bread pudding, which most people on this who are close to me know that I make, and now it's available on the market. But but I mean, that's the type of people we have on Leadership Washington. That Lyles knew enough to sort of bring me one of my specialties, and that's the great Lyles Carr. He would take the time to do that. So I mean, it's been the people that have made up this organization, and I mean, we've had a lot of good times, a lot of fun times, a lot of people who are no longer with us, but it's been the people and the tenacity of this organization to go where others don't go, and I mean, and we have a great deal of respect for each other. And I think that when it's all said and done, that is the most important thing that you can have, is while you might disagree with their thoughts on certain things, you respect their right to have that disagreement. And I think that is tremendous, and speaks well of this organization. So my quest is to still, as long as I can, recruit people to walk the walk that I've had in this August organization.
Let me get to the chat room a little bit. And if anybody has questions, please put them there, put them in the Q&A section as well. Beverly Silver says, a one-word description of Howard is intrepid. Mari Simpson says, transparency is important, Howard. And then tell us how you embrace transparency with the Vehicle Use Review Board.
What? I didn't hear you there.
Tell us how you embrace transparency, from Mari Simpson. Tell us how you embrace transparency with the Vehicle Use Review Board. That's got to be a story.
That's somebody who I'm going to take the fifth on that. And why does a caller know exactly the recommendations of the Vehicle Review Board? That could be only one or two people. I know it's not my very good friend and colleague, Colette Gresham, who I dearly love, who staffed that task force for me, but it was totally transparent. It was. We laid out the facts, and at that time, the council members had cars, and there had been two unfortunate incidents, and they were well known by the public, and we proceeded to make a recommendation to sort of take away that perk. And it worked. And there's somebody who I just saw in the chat room, Maurice Simpson, one great young man who we're going to hear a lot about from. He was somebody that I embraced and mentored, and he was also a part of that. But there were no cover-ups and no lies.
Mari said you included public input, you allowed online comments.
We did.
We're getting a whole debate on transparency in the chat room where Carla Reed is saying it's overrated. Ironically, some leaders hide behind it, really swayed by it. A lot of discussion. Is it too much, too little? What's the right level? But that's not why we asked to see you today, Howard.
But
we want to talk to you about LGW and your memories of LGW. Where do you see us going in the next 35 years? We're celebrating our 30th anniversary this year. You're a big part of the history of LGW. Where would you like us to go over the next 35 years?
Well, Doug, that is something that I really, really, really need to, as I used to say, take a deeper dive in, because we have done a lot through your leadership, with your leadership. And I can just see us going to new heights, to one that, when I became a member of the organization, it was a coveted thing. And it should be, because you want people who are trying to make a difference in the entire region to be members of this august organization. And that's why when I recruit people, I do it very tactfully, and I do it with an eye toward who would I like to see be ambassadors from Prince George's County in leadership Greater Washington, and that's what I say. And I've recruited some great ambassadors, and a lot of people to sort of tell our story, and to let people know that we're regular people in Prince George's County, and just don't call us PG. But we that's a pet peeve I have, and everybody knows that. But I just think this organization can add so much to the debate about what we want the Washington area to be, and the fact that we all come together and try to deal with some of the challenges that still plague this region. So I think we're well positioned to be anything we want to be, but we have always been an open and honest forum where you could state your positions. We're above the political fray. And I think that's one thing that's good about the organization. We don't delve in the political issues. So we, of course, have contributed to the fact that a lot of politicians who have gone through the program. And I think that should almost be a requirement when you enter public life in this area. This is an organization that you need to know, you need to be familiar with, and you need to become a part of.
And what's great, and something I really appreciate, is that you have done that for Prince George's County. We are the go-to leadership organization for Prince George's County leaders. Mm-hmm. And it's due to you, it's due to artists, it's due to Dana, it's due to Rosie, it's due to a lot of people. But there is such an esprit de corps among the Prince George's members. I mean, you're the only jurisdiction that sort of holds at least one get-together for all the Prince George's County members every year. There's a real sense of pride there. So I want to thank you.
Well, you know, I take great pride in that, Doug. And there have been several sort of reluctant recruits. But, you know, I said, this is a program you're going to do, okay? And I'll never forget Greg Wells, who is very close to me and one of my neighbors down the street. He said that when I told him about the program and he knew that Wayne had written the program, he didn't question. He just said, I'll sign up and do it. And Dorothy Bailey was one of those reluctant people. She didn't want to do the program. But what we did, Doug, this is, and you know, and I know a lot of this is secret, but artists.
We're transparent here, 100% transparency.
And,
no
and our artist is going to kill me for saying this, but we were on the selection committee. I think when the class of 1998 were being selected. And we get together and have little confabs, and we had done that. And we need to get to Laos. And Laos, we had the meeting, and Laos came in the room a little late. And artist said, well, I got to get to Laos. And Doug, I'll never forget this day. Artists literally got up and followed Laos into the men's room. So you're talking about sheer determination and wit. I'm sitting there going, what? Because when we looked at the class that we put together in 1998, and that still remains, I think, the highest class of people that we had from Prince George's County. And that was a class that got together and did some remarkable things, and all of them are my dear friends. But you know, and I just saw Bev Silverberg. So, and you know, every time that I get an opportunity to showcase an item in Prince George's County, because the last time I did something, it was last while we were getting together, so August before last. We had an event at our beautiful new Culinary Arts Center at Prince George's Community College, and we were featuring our CEO and Leadership Washington member, Monica Golson.
Yes,
somebody that I take great pride in, but she was featured, and people marveled at the Performing Arts Center, and I'm just so happy, Doug, that you know, we had the pleasure of having Charlene M. Dukes, president of Community College for 25 years, and she retired, but now that she has taken up the mantle of being the interim president at Montgomery Community College.
I am so excited about that.
So what a great choice. That speaks well in and of itself, because Charlene is a true tour de force.
Yeah.
And she was one of those people who kept me in line pretty good when I happened to serve still as a trustee of the community college. but I learned a lot from her in the roles and responsibilities. And that's really interesting, Doug, because I've had the fortune of serving on the college trustees, the school board, and the parking and planning commission. And throughout my tenure with this government, I've learned a lot. And I've learned a lot from some very special people. And all of them, bar none, happen to be members of the leadership grade of Washington. And people like Betty Hewlett, who was my close friend, and she has gone through the program, and it's just eons of people who I've learned a lot from, and I really sit at their feet.
Remember at the event at the Culinary Arts Institute, that's when we announced that artist Hampshire Cowan was our selection for Leader of the Year. A little bit to her surprise, but
yes.
But I figured the only way we could get her to agree to it was to announce it publicly and just keep moving. So, and it worked.
You're right, Doug. You're right. And I remember we did a similar thing for the Prince George's Community Foundation. We have the Civic Leadership Awards, and we honored artists, and she came to me immediately because I think I was either president or vice president or something of the organization, protesting, why me? And I said, okay, decision's been made. Just pick out a wonderful outfit and come and enjoy yourself. And we did it. And once the decision's made, you move on. And I think we're in keeping with the great people that we have honored as one of the leaders of the year. Certainly Rosie Allen Herring, Alex Orfinger, certainly artists, and this year the magnificent Lyles Clark. Now I got this honor, Doug, before it was called Leader of the Year. Yes. I think I got this award 7, and that's the year that Doug, you told me that I couldn't speak. You remember that?
I remember that.
And what did I tell you?
That was a wise decision on my part. You totally ignored it.
I totally ignored it, right?
I know. That's what I said.
Because I had a county executive and I had 9 members of my county council there that had come out to see me, and I wanted them recognized. So I said, Mr. Duncan, you're not going to have your, and the MC, I can't remember his name, he was from Channel 7. He said, boy, I shouldn't have given the microphone to you, because, I was very proud, and I was very proud of the county and the symbolic symbolism of we're recognizing a leader from Prince George's County.
And I also want to remind everyone that you all, the Prince George's County people, oh gosh, Howard, I'm getting the old age thing again. I'm forgetting names. But anyway, we had an early tour, a pre-opening tour of the new Prince George's Hospital Center.
Yes.
The medical center, which is for LGW members. So thank you very much for that. I think that's a wonderful thing that Prince George's County does for this organization, is that you are always inviting us into your county to share what you have, what you're doing. And it's a great way to educate our members about Prince George. I wish other counties would do the same.
Well, Doug, as long as I'm involved, I'm going to continue to do that.
Yes.
And that afternoon was a wonderful afternoon. We got a sneak peek at what I hope everybody, I'm like, I don't want everybody to go to the hospital, but to just tour, which we're resuming tours of the facility. It is a magnificent facility, a long-awaited facility in Prince George's County. And so I'm just excited, and I happen to be a part of the hospital foundation. And after this call, people are going to say, well, when does he get the time to do his actual work? But that was a giant step forward for Prince George's County, and the development of what Derek Davis lovingly calls downtown Prince George's County.
What I love about it is that maybe for the first time, Prince George's now has a healthcare system in the county.
Right, exactly.
As opposed to sending people out to other places. And it's extraordinary what that's going to do for the county itself. Howard, I want to thank you very much for all of your time with us. I want to thank you for your leadership, not just with Leadership Greater Washington, but for Prince George's County, the entire region. You've been a key player for 30 years now in the life and the health of the Greater Washington region. So thank you for that. I'm going to turn it over to you for the final word. But before I do that, I do want to say, I want to give artist Hampshire Cowan a chance to rebut. And she put in the chat that this is artist's quote, "I am not nearly as bad as Howard and Doug are describing." So Howard, artist, we love you. Dorothy, we love you too. And Howard, let me give you the final word on today's conversation.
Well, Doug, I was honored to be asked to be part of this wonderful organization, and it certainly does my heart well to be a part of not only the 35th anniversary, but all the things that we do, because I will continually be one of those people that will be one of the ones carrying the banner and lifting up the name of Leadership Greater Washington, because we mean so much to this Washington, D.C. area. And I just thank you for giving me this time to wax. I don't know how eloquently I wax, but I tried to tell everybody my thoughts, my beliefs, and I care about this organization deeply, the people who make up this organization. And Doug, artists, and you and I, we really know the artist Gail Hampshire Cowan. We love her dearly, and I'm just happy that some people, I think all my friends tuned in today.
So let me close with thank you to PNC Bank for sponsoring these conversations. Please remember to fill out the evaluation form, the survey form about this conversation. We're always looking for ways to improve. And my final question, Howard, is, and I've been asked this by lots of people, what's the W stand for?
And as I said at the beginning, you all are still going to have to wonder. And I'm going to leave it like that. Have a great afternoon, everybody.
Have a great day, everybody. Thank you all for being here. Howard, thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
It was a real pleasure. Thank you.